Hello, welcome to episode 11 of the End of the Beginning podcast. In this episode, we chat about the nature of abundance, the idea of self-celebration versus tall poppy, and self-assuredness versus ego. We discuss different attachment styles, the tightening cycle of technology, and functioning with loving intention. We hope you enjoy what you hear, and if you'd like to submit any questions for upcoming episodes, please contact us at theendofthebeginningpodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks for listening.
You listen back to episode 10 and perhaps 9, there's that kind of dichotomy between apex wealth is disgusting and also we love wealth inherently. You and I are trying to love all parts of the universe, but particularly abundance, so we can bring more of it into our life and in important and powerful for leverage ways, granulate it into what is abundance to me anyway. Something's really topical for me this week. But yeah, like, how do we relate to wealthy people? What does any of that even mean? Crohn's got a cool thing. It's bubbled up in my life many times, and I think lots of people's is that you pitch yourself towards something. Your metaphor of like you choose a direction, you point your boat in a certain direction, and you do what you can to hold to that vibrational signature and steer. And often, as you think you want a thing and you move towards it and you fulfill it in part, and then you go, oh, I've satiated that deep soul desire to experience an abundance of that. It might be, I don't know, promiscuity. For some reason, it's the first thing that comes to mind. It might be travel. It might, like, whatever. And you get maybe not even halfway down that road. And I think that the oversimplified perspective would be, and then you realize it's hollow and what you really want is God and what you really want is piety. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's more nuanced than that. You work on an inspired inflection and sometimes it's filled up and it creates a new tangent and pivot point of creativity and you move towards that. There's no notes there. That is self-fulfilling all of itself. So you might think you want $10 million and you work your way down that path and you work out what you really want is the capacity to get excited about what money can unlock for you in your life. And that takes you have a bolus of surplus, a rise, and you go, wow, this opens this door. And perhaps in a even more beautiful way, this enables me to relate to expense in a whole different way. This is fun to spend this money. You might sit around with $10 million or maybe one or two or whatever inane figure, benign, summation, whatever. Sit there staring at it in your bank account long enough that it stagnates energetically in your system like a piece of food stuck in your teeth that's annoying the shit out of you and rotting your teeth. Like, it's real death by stasis. And what that informs in your experience, your vibrational living of life, is that it has no value until you move it. Until you actually spend it.
Your intent, yeah.
And yet you've lived an entire life of the spending is the painful bit, because I had a thing that made me feel safer in the wilderness of life. And the second I go, oh, now I've got to spend it and buy the car or whatever, it's like, I hope I can actually enjoy the car, because the chunking down of my bank account balance stings me somewhere. And having enough that you could go flip that whole story. And this can't be an intellectual process. This has to be experienced and embodied, and go, oh, it has no value until I spend it. Until, like a trust fund baby who can't spend any of the money, I suppose, would know this. Because you're like, oh, until I'm 25 or something, I satisfy some condition, I'm not allowed freedom. I'm not allowed the freedom that this money brings. So there is no value until you spend it. For me, the apex abundance moments of my life, and I'm looking forward to bigger and brighter ones. That's the very nature of money, but also growth. And I think being human is looking forward to bigger and brighter in any direction you can imagine. When it moves, there's a thing from a book from 20 years ago or something that has stayed with me and sometimes disappears but then thunders back in. Money has no worth until you spend it. That's the only time it has any value. Otherwise, it is literally paper or dots or ink, what am I saying? Or electronic digits
Pixels,
on a sheet, until you spend it. And this is the bit that I love. The greatest way to bring money into your life is to keep it moving. It comes in, you spend it, you realize its value. You're swimming in the energy signature of realize the value of money, which is really freedom to say, I can afford to take chances. I can afford to invest in terms of inspiration rather than practicality. I can afford to buy gifts for people. I can afford to, when we say it would be nice to have more money, it has to arrive at this point at some time. I can afford to be generous with myself and others. I can afford to move beyond persistence living. I can afford to get quiet, allow inspiration to bubble up and move with it, and give the money that the universe has gifted me value by realizing its potential and spending it. So coming back to what I was saying, the most beautiful moments of abundance in my life have been sponsored by that foundation, that feeling of I move it and it gets replaced. It creates like a negative pressure. You remove a thing and something else floods in. If it quickly gets removed, it must, whatever the opposite of decompress is, compress again you've created a negative pressure, so something else rushes in. I keep it moving and it keeps sliding in and sliding in and sliding in. And that's a felt thing. That's not an intellectual thing. It feels resonant with a deep part of me, and I trust that, and it has worked beautifully. Because it is supposed to be fun. Money's supposed to be fun. And it's not. It's usually not. For the way that most of us relate to it, we could unpack and the way our culture relates to it. There's tension around it, and that's okay. But that is the body of work. It's not wrong, because if there's a real dearth of fun, it means there's the presence of a lot of seriousness and heaviness, density maybe. That when we break that down with the power of our consciousness, or perhaps better put, when we feel the feelings that are around that, things lubricate. Those, you could argue, misunderstandings disperse, dissolve, uplift, evaporate, rearrange themselves, whatever. Our misunderstandings are uncloaked and peeled back, and then a deeper, something representative of our true nature emerges, and that, thankfully and beautifully, can have physical form, can take a physical form in our life.
What would you say to the idea that money is power, and money can be used for manipulation, and can be used because I think it's awesome. I'm playing devil's advocate. But it's awesome to hear that, the idea of the flow, and I think that's definitely. It's definitely the way that I prefer to look at money, is like when you pay a bill or something, there's gratitude in that for, the heat of your home or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
I have seen money used, though, to create importance around someone who's just not important, other than, they're as important as the rest of us. But it creates this kind of sycophantic subset of people around those kind of people with great wealth, it would seem. And I think sometimes it could be the ego. I mean, maybe it's just like, this is the perfection of it all, is like they're just learning the thing they need to learn. But seeing it used as a power tool rather than one of, flow and movement and stuff. Like, what would you say to that in terms of its function?
So we're speaking in very broad strokes, aren't we?
Yeah, of course.
I'm inclined to go I don't know that we fix global issues, like saying, if we take money out, to give it some context, Paul and Luke believe and want to believe more that there's more than enough for everybody, and that the real value that you're here to uncover is in terms of self-discovery. Is that you have all the peace inside of you, you have all the love inside of you, and it can project out artfully onto your life. And then you look. And there's a lot of looking outside in our time. We have a global view more than we've ever had.
Yeah.
and that must be okay. It's part of our time. It's part of the grist for the mill that's here. It's also part of the wonder that's available and the opportunity. Like it's a complex time, but complexity has both edges. And I think the game's rigged. I think love prevails. I think it's the thing that once we crack open enough, it's what bubbles up and wins. Love is the thing that outlasts trauma eventually. But you can't have that dialogue with somebody who's deep in the trauma, because it needs to feel of substance. It needs to feel authentic and real. And so when something really big and chunky happens, it needs to be felt and met. And so you don't go, hey man, can't you see the God in all of this? And just go, I am living the God in all of this. I am informing the God in all of this by being as closely observational as I can. Yes, there's a divine perspective that this is just a really intense simulation, but I came for the simulation and I'm going to be with it as sincerely as possible. And if my body's in terror, I'm going to create containment for terror, not try to jump ahead of the terror. Because there's a part of judgment and exclusion in that we don't want to coexist with. So before it spirals way off into a deeper tangent, if we wanted to move, we want to move towards a more peaceful and stable, equanimity-sponsored relationship with money in our life, which is synonymous with freedom and with peace. And then straight away we look to an example of, but the 1% is got us all by the throat. And what do we say? What do we do about that? So the first thing was like, well, you can't. It's going to be really hard. If you said what we need to do is enlighten the planet. A dear friend of mine devoted... someone who's not in my life anymore, but was a big part of my life for a long time, devoted their life, and to my knowledge still has, decades, broad stroke stuff, deep investment in the climate change movement. And there's me deeply invested in spirituality being the most interesting sphere of the human experience, and there's him looking at climate change as being the environmentalism being the most interesting one. And what I was struck by was the passion was quite similar, and we both saw it as the primary import of life, and we're both learning and stumbling and rearranging ourselves. But his sphere seemed to advocate for him going to the streets and shaking people to wake them up, and learning that, God, you've really got to pick your battles, and in the hardest of roads, learning that. And then me learning quite quickly that you can't prophesize. You can't offer people spiritual content that have no interest in it. You experience so much pushback, maybe on a personal communicative level, but much more energetically, like you and I often talk about in our personal conversations. It's akin to putting 240 volts into a 12-volt port. It's the offer of the too much voltage that experiences the splashback. It's uncomfortable for the 12-volt, but there's a lot of information in the pushback that you get. And the offering or the invitation from the universe, in my experience, has been, it ain't broke. That port is at 12 volts in elegance and in balance and in equanimity, just like some other creature or being isn't coming to us and going, yo, what are you doing? Don't you know who you are? You're behaving like an idiot. Or whatever. It's an uncomfortable inflection of hierarchy in that or whatever, but sometimes that plays its way into the perspective. So in the same way that we don't want to be stuck in the pattern of having to wake the world up to what abundance is possible. In my heart, in my perspective, from my perspective, whatever the right language is, the best I've got, if someone comes to me in pain and we can dial into what that pain is, either consciously or it's just present in the room, someone's afraid, the best thing I can be for them is the opposite vibration. So attuning to the issue, holding it with containment, and then adopting the opposite. And often that just looks like stability and peace as the opposite of fear. You might argue courage, but there's probably nothing more courageous than stability and peace, which is the ability to stand in whatever. So you adopt the opposite vibration. You don't say, this is how you get to this vibration. So if someone comes and is shaky in some intertwining of survivalism and their relationship to money, it's like, well, I honor the process that you're in. I create a containment of non-judgment and emptiness around it so that you can move through what you need to move through. When I'm inspired, I might offer some language when it feels right. And that's a skill that's, is ever refining. So there's clunkiness and then there's flow, and you're sort of trying to get it right. And it's a wonderful practice to develop self and develop that skill set and learn a lot about yourself in that process. But then you're adopting a vibration of peace around it, which in that moment you might say, okay, let's swap out peace for abundance, as in fullness, as in I feel safe. There's a part of me that feels safe in the universe and knows it's resourced enough. And so I attune to that. And it sounds like it might be an out of place discipline to thrust into there, but actually there's a polarization that occurs when you can see somebody's disconnected from their innate safety around money. It often lights up your safety around money. Especially if you're going to adopt a compassionate, neutral, loving container, and you feel that, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a metaphor of opposites. You feel that note.
Polarity.
Polarity. You feel that note played and it's crunchy, and you instantly want to create a balancing sound. Something like that. Maybe that makes more sense to a musician's ear than it does to someone like me, more regular ear or something. So the question was, like, when somebody looks out across the landscape of the world and sees people leveraging power, it is evident. It is. It's. We can talk about it all day. I'd be more interested in that individual's relationship to abundance in life and how it works. It is certainly apparent that we can spend more than enough time, maybe infinite time, pointing fingers at the reasons we're not able to hold things. And so we're not able to bring things into our life in significant proportions. We're not able to cultivate abundance of love, abundance of wealth. We can spend decades on decades on decades explaining why not. And as much as we are here, we're experiencers of this universal form, and it's out of our control. That's part of the nature of the divine playing out in front of us, is to surrender to it and experience it, to let life in. Another part of us is fiercely creative. Observation's just one part. Surrender and humility is just one aspect of God's character. And if we're going to dance this dance of being a spark of the divine, which most people who feel some relative establishment in a spiritual life will say, yeah, I know what you mean. I can, that's not a bridge too far for me. I'm not saying it's old hat, but it's generally accepted that there's divinity in us. The thing that it is infinity. So you can't be a little bit of infinity. A grain of sand of infinity is as big as anything has ever been and will ever be. So the concept of just being a spark of the divine, like a candle in front of the sun. The candle is the sun is the candle. So as a functional application of that idea, you're infinitely creative as well. And there's a bit of a system, I suppose, we're in this duality where you don't tend to create things instantly. There tends to be a process. But in my heart, that process's purpose, that we would call time-space reality, things being stretched out across a window of time. So you want to manifest a bunch of wealth or an ideal spouse, that tends to clump together over time and form a story arc. That way you get to granulate and experience it. And typically in the human experience, we covet a thing we don't have. And I invite that we covet it because there's a divine yearning. God wants to play something out through us. So this is part of the desire, being exquisite. But also there's a vibrational dearth of it inside of us. So it's in us, which is how we recognize it in the first place, and we want to unpack this part of ourselves. There's also on another level of us a vibrational absence of it, creating the polarity like magnets. I don't have this thing, which is essentially the foundation of desire. And it bubbles up, and now I want to move towards it. And coming right back to it, sometimes you get halfway down that road and it informs such creativity, satiation, fulfillment, resourcing, fun, bro. Fun. And it's ecstasy. It is. It's supposed to be fun. This is where the children inside of us that never go away get to come back out and play. And you move towards the next thing. And it continues and it continues and it continues. I don't know where a conventional idea of enlightenment fits in with that. There is no separation between a fiercely spiritual orientated life and creativity. It's not like it's a new age fringe thing that's out here creating your own life. These concepts of enlightenment and the bringing online of co-creativity in a material way in your life are fiercely intertwined, like lovers rolling around in a bed to me. They're both really, really alive and not separate. So do you kind of see what I'm doing there? I'm conveniently avoiding the how do we fix the 1% by saying the way you fix the 1% is by using it as an inspiration to go deeper into your own relationship for abundance and essentially rerouting all that energy. There is nothing. I think like both of us are examples of people who can experience doubt around, fuck, the system's hard to beat. If I really, we would have examples of this in our life. If I could just shift this, if I could just move there, then things would flow. And we've both lived enough to go, oh, in retrospect, when I finally did shift that, it's because I realized I was withholding something from myself. But an exquisite part to offer is that's not naughty boy. That's like, no, the universe is doing it. It's getting you to feel the super glue adhesive that holds the thing to you, as if that's the thing that holds it to you is an unfelt feeling. And reintegrating, bringing back into the fold, loving in is a nice way to put it. It's often used in contemporary vernacular. Loving that part back in and revealing that part of yourself to yourself, bringing it back into the village, opening that door of the mansion of your heart, and then having a new faculty online. That's every time, that's what it ends up being. And it might take me years to get down that road and go, oh, right. I was withholding that part of myself from myself, and I can also see that I couldn't have got there any quicker. So honoring that we're only ever standing in our own way, but never being truly critical of ourselves for that. Just like you wouldn't with your own child or you wouldn't with your other people. So, and if you're not going to do that, that means that actually the process is perfect the way it is. And because we're not talking in 1 or 2D, we're talking in 3, 4, 5 plus dimensions, we can say that that's allowed to include the tension and writhing and discomfort. Like, I want to do better. I want to experience more. Like, it's all welcomed in there. We want to shed inefficient self-judgment for sure. But, I don't know, like last night, something, I don't know how to describe it, something punchy happened for me emotionally. And it was because of a choice, or it was my fault, or it was something for me to own, something for me to sit with. And there was no reasoning with that. It's like, this really hurts. I did a thing, I made a mistake, it caused pain to me. The consequences to the world will pass pretty quick, but the ripple through me needs to be honored. That wave is going to ascend, crest, crumble, whitewash, dissolve, and whatever the final step would be, to complete resolution. It has to have its life. The wind has to be able to blow through the canyon, like right through it, and just not getting in the way. And so being with it and crying the cries or whatever, and allowing that process, it has elegance. Whereas if it's like, oh, you could probably get off this quicker. Oh, you don't need to be so hard on yourself. Or does it fit what I'm saying?
Yeah, I my way of processing those things is very different, and I guess it's more that thing of I'm always over there, which is my more concern for the other rather than myself.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to observe, right? I guess just before we change tangents, I get what you're saying about the kind of global 1% thing. What I guess where I was trying to angle was more into the singular person, and what is that function? Do you think, like, where are they in in themselves that the use of money isn't for flow and isn't for expansion. It's being used for something else.
Oh.
And then inside that experience of all of that,
Yeah.
like, do you see, or can you see, can you help me see a function of it?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
That's okay.
Sorry for the 25-minute detour.
I still really like where we went. No. Yeah.
It goes where it goes, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you're asking what is going on in the system that they see value in the accumulation of wealth, and then, I mean, we could say suppression of other. It feels like it'd probably look mostly like, I can't afford to lose this, so I'll do whatever I can to keep it and to multiply it, which is probably not even about money at that point. It's probably about the status I have in this hierarchical system I need to maintain.
100%.
And that's quite understandable, isn't it? Like if you fought really hard to become the president of the world, and then you're like, well, what do I do now? I still think I'm the right guy for the job. I'll, maybe I'll do whatever I can to keep it. It's like, oh, well, if I have to be a bit of a prick on this front, and I'm radically G-rating the horrors of human history but I think what I can understand that there's a part of me that might think that way. And as the stakes get higher, you get rattled, and it gets harder and harder to hold to that. And perhaps this is where psychopathy and narcissism enters, where it's increasingly irrelevant as you get further down that spectrum. It's like the fallout, which we would experience as through human empathy. The fallout doesn't
ever.
There's no input site for that in me, so I don't care. So caring
that's
about
a crazy thought, isn't it?
It is if you're empathic.
That data just can't be input.
I think what I would invite is, can we drop the morality of that? That's where I think we really get something really generative and new can pop in when you say, okay, this person actually lacks the ability to care for another human being. And that's not their fault, but also they lack the ability to care for another human being.
How do we help them?
If you really pull back what humanity is, what being a human is, you can't get very far from the core truth and stray from relatability. Part of being human is relational.
Yeah.
I totally hear for counter arguments to that, but I can't feel them.
As you're talking about that, I believe the same philosophy. I don't know why we haven't established, and I'm sure someone will tell me because that's naive, but I don't know why we haven't established in our schooling system a set of, I don't know, tests is the wrong word, but a set of observations that can be made to go, oh, this person is showing the character traits of someone narcissistic or psychotic or, sociopathic, and help them, like develop, structures and stuff for helping them intellectually understand empathy, even though they can't feel it.
Yeah.
Surely, and then to help instead, it feels to me more like, and when you were talking, I had this image of, it feels like they're being wrangled and used for the abilities that normal people can't. It's a bit like the metaphor that came in my head is like a berserker. Remember the berserkers on the field where it's just like...
Yeah, Viking, I think.
Yeah, they were allowed out of the cage because their brutality was something that was beyond everyday normal, Vikings. I don't know that.
Yeah. In their case, I think it's an absence of self-regard, which is that's not fair to pull apart the metaphor, but I do get.
Yeah.
They're a force of singularity in a way.
It's more that thing of like, I guess the tribe is using them for the abilities that they have, and it feels like capitalism or the capitalism tribe uses that for the ability to do that. And so I wonder, like, because I totally agree. I think there's nothing wrong with these people. It's just that we haven't helped them find a really productive, beautiful part in society. We've kind of just let them run rampant.
Right. I'm not sure that's how I would word it. It's multi-edged. There's nothing morally... There is a way of holding this. Two things must be true at once for us to honour, okay, in a convenient example, our spirituality and our humanity. But any complex issue... This is why listening is so effing important. The two truths that matter here in the proximity of this room are your perspective, as authentic as we can distill it down to, and my perspective, and they're not consistently the same.
Mm.
And so the two truths that matter, because if it's just my reality, then there's no value in the relationship. And if it's just your reality, same deal.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is a lot. Morality still exists. This is the thing I just said. Can we drop it for a sec? There's an invitation to explore things without the right and wrong, and then come back from a deeper point of connection to morality and go, okay, well, what is that? Yes, it's incredibly subjective, but to my system, to the vulnerability that I came to inhabit, and uplift and transform and become stronger, but only through coexisting with that. This is what I understand as descending into the feminine spiritual half of ourselves, is coexisting with that finite, coexisting with that vulnerability. And I don't want it to go away. This is what we talk about. If enlightenment looks like that disappearing altogether, I'm not interested in it, because it's got so much. It's where all my authenticity comes from, is the ways I can be hurt. I think this is true for us all, but it's just the best I've got. So it is important, I think, to acknowledge that these destructive forces are destructive, not because of their own fault, but they're incredibly destructive. So the morality does and doesn't matter at the same time. Yeah. So I mean, the question is whether you think there's healing possible in true pathological narcissism, which the suggestion is that they lack the neural function, they lack the neural capacity to consider the needs of another as separate to themselves. So they almost
it can be trauma too, though, right?
Realm. No, I think it's consistently trauma, but
not just physiological,
like genealogical. Is that what you mean?
No.
Nature, you're saying?
Yeah, like the physiological, like when we talk about psychopathy and things, is, I think there's studies that show that there's underdeveloped parts of the brain where empathy normally resides, etc., etc., etc. I might have misunderstood. Were you not just saying the same thing about narcissism, that there's parts of the brain
there's
that
an anatomical component to it? But I think there seems to be a conflict feels too strong, but a discernment we're trying to come to around whether it's genealogical or whether it's historical. Yeah. As in, has it arisen because of nurture, or was it there beforehand and nothing could be done about it? And there's different schools of thought on that, just like there is with bloody everything within degrees. Yeah. I don't know. I think that it has always been true that there are some things we either don't have the time or the tech or the know-how or whatever to heal fully right now, so we're going to have to coexist with. This happens in human relationship all the time. You go to someone and go, I love you. You've hurt trust, or I've hurt trust. I really want to restore that so we can actually practice open-heartedness, because that's really valuable to me. And someone says, no hablo inglés. Or you say that to them, or whatever. Essentially, we're defining an incapacity to meet at that depth, so you adjust the depth. Yeah. So what I'm pointing out there is that one of the variables is capacity. And so one of the tricky bits with true pathological narcissism is there isn't enough accountability or self-reflection to even want to do any work there. If you were to start it, if it was even achievable, I don't know. But that doesn't make them fundamentally bad. It makes them fundamentally different, but in important and vivid ways that need to be accounted for. Because otherwise, like, the God in them isn't served by endless compassion from you, because somewhere along the line they've been rewired to feed on that without actually growing and healing. And so it is like we've inferred before, it's like giving a junkie the one thing that's the worst thing for them. Also understanding that cold turkey might destroy them too. Like it's a complex thing. Thankfully, it's not our responsibility to heal for others. Thankfully and infuriatingly, because it can be like, God, if we could just turn this corner. And that's a part of the grief process that needs to be honored as well.
I mean, if there is a kind of macro view of the whole thing,
right?
It would wouldn't it point to the fact that they've incarnated that way on purpose, because there's functionality to it.
This might be tying back into what we were saying before. That's what comes up for me, is like, it's still true from the karmic perspective. I'm doing inverted commas there so that we can hold it lightly and not infer that it's the primary truth necessarily, but it still has powerful resonance to dance with. And that is that all relationships are karmic, and they all serve incredible soul purpose. and pre-carnally intentional purpose, meaning that this is an arrangement you came to with this person to come and dance a specific kind of dance. Now, the problem I see with contemporary spirituality often, maybe traditional, whatever, it doesn't really matter how long we've been doing it. It's about its efficacy for here and now, to crack myself open and for me to experience more of myself and therefore more of life. Is that we go, oh, that's the divine perspective, that's what I'm going to adopt. And we can bypass the very human realities. Not that that just is naughty or doing it wrong, or, you know, it's not a judgment, but it loses some functional efficacy because we stop dancing with the very thing we came to dance with, which is the reality of this. If I sit authentically in my humanity and go, when these patterns play out, a part of me is crushed over and over and over. In order to stay in relationship with myself, I've got to honor that that's happening, because otherwise it's like walking around in the rain saying it's really dry out and you're living in some form of derangement, distortion. So, no, this breaks my heart every time. There's a reality in which no one can break my heart. I'm letting them do it, which is sort of the higher, more masculine, spiritual, monastic perspective, which again, two things being true at once. It's like, okay, so I'm the one who actually has the power to be not to blame for this, but be opportunistic and be accountable for what's at play here. So I'm going to dance with this in a more authentic way than I have and say, my heart breaks in this moment. In order to I don't want to dissolve my vulnerability, because I came here to be human and for that part to be online and lived fully and authentically. And yet I'm the one that's empowered. So I'm going to feel this and see what truth is informed from that. And that is that I need to create space. I am going to create the space. If I don't, I get proximal to this dangerous thing and it keeps breaking my heart. I am going to create the space. I'm going to move into a deeper relationship with myself. In my experience, you realize you've been leaking all this energy out and now it's restored back to my own energetic circulatory system. I'm, much, much more powerful, much, much more resilient. Without that tension, I'm better in relationship with life. I'm more authentically in relationship with that person. I've realized their potential for me to grow. I fully participated in the process. And it's like, and now I can authentically exist in blamelessness with them and go, I was a willing participant in all of that mess. It woke up, it cracked me open. It woke up parts of me that will not turn off again. Thank you so much. And there are apex moments of like that in my experience, and I doubt I'm alone, where you're almost like, this has been truly horrible to my humanity. It no longer is, and yet it's still dangerous. The reason it's not truly horrible is because of the distance and spaciousness I've created. And yet it's grown me so much. There's so much exhilaration and gratitude around it. I almost wish it wouldn't end. That's what I mean by that apex moment. And I don't tend to stay there very long. And that some of that feels like cyclically healthy to me, like to not just be like, oh, I never want this to end. But it's like, it's such a powerful gratitude for, holy shit. And it's two things: gratitude for the change and therefore the joy of feeling more myself while I live my life. And I can feel the alignment with the rest of the universe. I think these are available to all of us to feel, like when you get the inner yes right in just a subtle little way, like, oh, I meant to turn down aisle 2 at Woolworths and I turned down aisle 1 and now I find myself somewhere else. But geez, the whatever's on special, wow, I'm glad I went down the wrong aisle, kind of thing. And you're participating in the now of it all. You could call it presence, but there's a deeper surrender and acceptance, and that transmutes to a celebration and an awakeness and a joy. I believe it all ends in joy eventually. That the universe, in my mind or heart, I'm not sure, gets up out of its seat for a rousing round of applause, because it's yes, thank you for coming home. You're on the team again. You've come back into the fold. And I just described in a kooky, almost childlike way, alignment. Coming back into alignment. And it's like, yes, you're here. We love you so much. We can't go down into the doldrums with you. We can support you from the sidelines when you're there, and we know you'll bring back data for the upliftment of all of us, which is God or the collective or source or whatever, the universe itself, perfect love, whatever you want to describe it as. And when you come back into alignment, it's celebratory and joyous, and it does feel like a kid being wrapped up by all its friends or all its favorite people, or there is I think I'm pointing to an innocence within all of that. There's something about alignment that's celebratory, innocent, childlike. And I think a life well lived does look like more and more honouring of your finite vulnerabilities so that your inner child can come out and play and be creative and be engaging and have a wonderful time. Like a wrestle on the couch with dad or something. Like it's, yes, this is what we need. So beautifully simple, and allowing the complexities to ripple through. Two things be it true at once. So yeah, there is wonderful providence in who enters your life and enters your world. And sometimes the very thing isn't just to say thank you all the time to move back towards God. It's to move towards God by being with the lumps and bumps that are there. And the fiercest epicenter of that is feeling. But there's a close connection between feeling a feeling in an abstract way, like this is sadness, this is the sadness. It's not even mine, it's the sadness moving through me. There's a beauty in that for sure. But seeing the Paul in it all and going like, oh bro, given the steps you've walked in life and where you've come from, that really hurt, didn't it? Given your ideas and the values you hold true to, when that happened, goodness me, I see you. The very thing we would want to do for somebody else. Quite obviously and intuitively, for the most part. I really want to see you in your truth, in your authenticity, in your maybe innocence, in your vulnerability in all of this. Because we're all trying and we're all imperfect. It's a rather clunky space when we're not in flow.
That's I mean, that's a really beautiful. I agree. It's in the flow. It's listening. It's kind of, I don't know. I think we've spoken about it before as like just not standing in the river or trying to walk upstream.
Yeah.
It's actually going with the flow of life.
Do you mean specifically in dancing with the one that you came with? Like this is the person that I'm interfacing with right now.
Yeah, and also speaking to the earlier you were talking about the I went to go down aisle 2 and I went down aisle 1 and that's right, I actually really need one of these things, or this is on special or whatever. I think like I used to think that was kind of like really I thought there's my mind playing tricks on me. You know, that thing of like you'd go just it started for me just like, I'm just going to go outside, I'm just going to work, and then in my head would just flash to take a raincoat, and I'm like, fuck, what am I thinking about raincoats for? It's a beautiful day. What's wrong with me? And then halfway on the way to work, it would just start pouring with rain. Yeah. And you're just like, that was trying to tell me, but it just took a long time for that to sink in for me. Like, if you can go with, the directors, if you can, like little signposts or intuition or whatever, then, there's something else. There's definitely something else going on.
There is. I'm hearing you say it. It's like, how wonderful that you're not alone. Because loneliness is one of the experiences we can have. There's a lot of inference from, those attuned to a more ethereal way of life. Ram Dass talks about it. It's like, he was not openly gay, but I think retrospectively gay or bi. I'm not really sure. It's never felt important. But he does talk about like, he thought he was practicing Tantra in his first decade of spirituality, and he looks back and goes, God, I was high. It was just crazy orgies. Like, there's incredible honesty in that has always hit me right in the chest. The guys who can be big and be adored in terms of their spiritual attainment, and yet also be really human and just go, this is just my best. Any answers I've got exist in you already. If you're happy enough, I can say things that inspire me, and if that unlocks a part of you to yourself, my version of that would be talking to people and go, hey, anything you experience that's juicy here for you, I'm just flashing lights moving across your night sky, moving across your screen of observation. It's all you. If a part of you gets up out of its chair and goes, yes, that's you talking to you about you. Congratulations for being ripe. Congratulations, well done for being ready. Because really the next step's got to be self-celebration in order to hold that as a new normalized vibration anyway.
That's an interesting concept, isn't it? like to me, the idea of self-celebration. There's so much, particularly in the, what do you call it? Antipodes? Is that Australia and New Zealand? I think they call it.
Can you say it again?
Antipodes? Antipodean? You don't know? You've never heard that word?
Maybe the last one when you said Antipodean. Why does that remind me of water?
There's a water company called Antipodes from New Zealand. But yeah, to be Antipodean, I think, I mean, we could check it later. If we had a Jamie.
Australasia?
If we had a Jamie, we can, yeah, Australasia.
Jamie! Oh no, we'll get a Jamie one day.
Yeah, like that, the idea of, lost my train of thought.
We're talking about the Australasian region. Sorry for forgetting the word.
No, that's okay. No. The tall poppy thing. You know, the idea of celebrating yourself.
It's uniquely Australian, isn't it?
Yes.
Or is it New Zealand as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think New Zealand's kind of
poppy
starting to let go of it, and it's starting to support, like when you see Flight of the Conchords or, you know, those guys doing...
There's not that many of them kicking around.
Doing good stuff. I think there's a proudness inside. I mean, I feel like it permeates through Australia as well. There is still the weird shit-kicking kind of, you know, tall poppy thing. But just back to what you were saying, like being able to celebrate yourself, being able to stay in an uplifted state about your being and not have it spill over into ego about how fucking awesome I am and how shit you are.
Yeah.
Like that's such a beautiful, really sweet, I think, really sweet space to exist in.
It's worth on discussing, I think. I mean, I think ego is a natural organ of the human system. And so it's going to attach to things. If you go and do something for a decade, I don't think anybody's getting out of a career or a window of a couple of decades parenting or whatever and just no grief, no transitional time, no nothing, like no introspection. And you'd have to be really growing into that, the tearing off of that Band-Aid, into the, you know, the rupture of those tissues as they form into something else. It's, I don't know, I don't want to leave a marriage or something and not have to honour it and ceremonialise it and, you know, just to be so ascended that these things just gloss off you like Teflon or something. Why am I talking about that?
Celebration of self?
Oh, yeah. That's the ego as part of the organic matter. And so to define what it is. So if a person, I don't know, if you got up and did a talk on music that was informed by deep personal growth, something that, you know, you could do, or something that's in your wheelhouse that would be like some sort of summation of your body of work in a very Paul-centric kind of way. And someone said, bro, I saw that talk you did in Toronto, for some reason I'm in Canada, 5 years ago, and I've never been the same. So if part of you went like, what I'm doing matters, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? And then part of you went like, I'm impactful. Is that less comfortable or the same?
For me?
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. And then part of you went like, I want to do this for more people. Or part of you went like, I'm the only one who can do this. Comfy? Still comfy?
Yeah.
Still comfy?
Yeah. I've done a shit ton of work, like through singing, like that thing of, like,
declaring yourself.
Oh, yeah, of having to move through that thing of like, there is only one of you. There only ever has been one of you, and of course you should be being you as much as you can, because this is it. You know, yes, you're coming back, but this version of you's not. So do this version of you to the best of your ability. And so I'm okay owning the bits.
Yeah.
But it was hard it was hard for a long
that's a really powerful
hard for a long time. Hard for a long time for me to just be like,
so celebrate the individuality. There's no other Paul at play. And so ever. Right.
That's insane.
Right. So then what is toxic ego stuff then?
I think toxic ego becomes when it gets a little more out of your control and you can't see the detriment to others around you.
Yeah.
When the inflation of your importance and the inflation of your impact probably starts to have deleterious, is that the word? Like
deleterious.
Starts to have negative effects on the people around you, and I think then You know, because there's a fine line between having confidence and having a really, I like to say, like, kind of solid sense of self, like solid frame. And there's a difference between that, and then there's a difference between standing on people to elevate yourself or pushing people down to elevate yourself.
That's the thread that keeps coming up for me. It's like there's it's not actually about connection with a deeper sense of self where your resourcing comes from. There's a requirement of validation externally.
Yeah.
And we go too far out that way, and this is like all these issues, but two things true at once. It's okay to require integrity from others as well. We don't want to over-spiritualize so much that we're a doormat, because we're trying so hard to walk like Christ that we will put up with anything and just continue to turn the other cheek. So it's like, turn the other cheek insofar as like, I want to work with what's arisen. So turn the other cheek as far as an inner yes, but an outer no, be like, hey, like we do with children. Like, you can't hit me in the face. It's my face. I've got a lot of nerve endings in my face. It really upsets me when you poke me in the eye. But I'm here for the feelings. Can we find a different way for the feelings? You really, really matter, but I exist here too.
Yeah, I think
just throwing out that bookend. So that
I totally agree. Like, I think, yeah, further to that point, I think, like, if you're not able to advocate for yourself, then you're still in lack, because you're below. For some reason, you've put yourself below somebody else.
Yeah.
Your needs below somebody else's. But if you can sit in an even neutral space with their needs and yours, both of them being just as important as each other, but you having more control over your own needs, really.
They say this about attachment styles, and there's different versions of this. I can't remember. There's this beautiful relational psychology book I read years ago that a friend gave to me. I can't remember even the author, let alone the title. But he has his own version of secure, attached, and anxious attachment styles, which is part of the zeitgeist of our time. And he's talking about the secure ones. There's a suggestion that they're pretty rare, and that they grew up in a house that was incredibly emotionally intelligent, where sovereignty was championed and empathy was championed. That means individuality and external consideration of other were both, you could say, fully online in that home in fluctuating amounts. In my experience, we were talking about this the other day, I know we differ here. I haven't experienced many households like that. I see some that are genuinely trying to be like that. I'm genuinely trying to be like that. That space around, where does space holding stop, and asking the child to acknowledge that I exist as well. So hitting in the face is an easier example, but if you're holding space for a lot of issues for a preteen to move through, and it implicates schedule and logistics and all these actual things that are objective strains on the nervous system of the container, i.e. the dad, in this instance the parent, me. At some point it's like, I'm actually a finite vessel. I can't keep holding these stressful things while you sit in procrastination to make a decision indefinitely. And I'm asking you to remember that I'm a person as well who has to make the lunches and has to get this done. And I willingly adopt those roles. I lovingly do it. I recognize our pre-carnal agreement that I would be your dad and I would do this. And I fucking love being your dad. But also, I'm a human being and I'm at the end here. I can't hold this forever. I want, essentially, some of the grey area is like, I want you to see my humanity too. For many reasons. A very convenient one is because you'll be a parent in like no time. And I want you to have normalized what it is to self-advocate as a parent, so it's not a hell realm for you. So you get to exist in your individuality there as well. I know a lot of mums go through that, where it's like they give all of their biological self away to the child and vast amounts of their spiritual landscape too, and then probably have to reintegrate back into themselves after this real union of beings. Like they become the portal, and children literally think they are their mother until they're what, 10 months old or something.
Oh, I think it's longer. The
Closer to 2.
Separation anxiety, yeah, around 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah. So it makes sense as a rite of passage. How do we maybe reclaim our sovereignty? How do we maintain our sovereignty? What's happening for you this week? What's going on? What's going on in your inner world? What are you feeling moving through? What's happening in your personal development, spiritual landscape? What's up, bruh?
I think I had this really weird thing happen. This this is such a banal thing, but this thing happened with the computer. Did I tell you about it?
The sound card?
I bricked it. Going to fix it, and it's the stupidest thing. It's like an Apple black hole thing. 2 days of like scouring through the internet.
About. Yeah.
Ringing Mac guys, and him then going, have you tried this? Yep. What about this? Yep. Yeah, I tried that one too. And I did this as well. Oh, that was a good idea. Didn't work? No, that didn't work either. And so what really kind of stood out for me was like this tenacity inside me that was just like, no, I just didn't want to let it go. And it started to affect me because I used to do this stuff all the time and it was no big deal. And I was like, what is going on in this world where it's like, if you get too far behind, there's just no way to catch up technology-wise. Fold it out into like, me thinking about AI and what's going to happen with that. And like, is this not existential crisis mode, but there was this whole like kind of unfolding of like, but I ended up getting it going and I just found it like the whole thing I found exhausting. This one little thing that happened. Being proud of the tenacity that I showed.
Yeah.
But also then like a little bit concerned about how far behind the 8 ball I've become technology-wise. How incredibly intelligent and dumb AI is at the same time.
We can feel the desire to not give up on the resource, right? It's like maybe a voice, an agreement that I am not giving up on this hardware. It's got too much inherent value. Or I've had ideas about its auxiliary use, which are pretty redundant, like pretty low end.
I also, though, too...
It's valuable, but you don't actually have a lot of practical use for it. Like, there's many ways you can watch it, play music in the kitchen sort of thing.
Yeah. For me, it's more that thing of...
You've essentially got a retired Bruce Springsteen playing in there. It's like, we could just use a Bluetooth speaker.
We could.
This is overcapitalization.
I think it's like, it's become a fundamental part of who I am, is this idea of the churn and burn economy. Like, what do they call it? Planned obsolescence. Yeah. I'm not into that. Yeah, I'm really not into that whole just chuck it out and get another one. Because the truth of it is I could have just bought a new iPad or I could have, and mounted it to the window on a suction thing or whatever. I could have done that, but I didn't want to. Part of me was just like, this thing still rocks its balls off and I don't want to do that. And I honestly think it's something as simple as I'm getting older and I still want to know that I'm okay. Just with being able to function in a modern society. Like, I see my dad who was like, he always had gadgets because he would just rock up with new shit all the time. We'd go on a holiday and he'd have one of those tiny televisions, but the first person to have one. Yeah. He had massive mobile phone when they first came out. Like, he was into gadgets. I've seen it only recently, which is a testament to his ability to be able to interact with it. But I've seen his now, like, he looks at AI, I think, and he's just like, nah, it's just one step too far. Yeah, he's happy to like have AI where he can go, turn on my lights, turn them off, turn everything off, like that kind of stuff. So he's still like, he's still kind of using it for what he wants it for, but he's no longer interested in like. I could be selling him short actually. He doesn't want to outsource his own intelligence to a GPT or something. Maybe, but for what it meant for me was just like, because the circle is tightening. It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. As in, technology is getting exponentially more. It's becoming faster, better. Like things are changing.
Implicated in more areas of life.
Things are changing more rapidly. Sure. So I've noticed that.
So what's the tightening circle?
The tightening circle is the exponential explosion of the deepening of technology into our lives and the speed at which it is getting better and the speed at which it is changing.
Which is excluding people who can keep up with it?
Yes. For example, the the visual generating that you're doing for the YouTube parts of this that people would be looking at right now if they're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that was not possible a year ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So it will get to a point, I believe, where it'll be like, that thing you're doing now, we couldn't do that last month.
That's what you mean by tighter.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
obsolescence
Everything
is more prevalent.
We're being forced now to think faster, deeper, and more I don't want to say holistically, but in the entirety of your life about technology. And I guess this was a moment for me to just go, am I still on my shit? You know, can I fix this thing, or am I just going to junk it and buy something else? And I was like, no, I'm going to fix it. This has still got another 5 years of usage the way we're using it in it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But the crazy AI part of it was, I then went back to the AI and said to it, I've managed to find a time machine back up. Oh, that's great, Paul. You know, I love how positive it always is and how it reinforces. Anyway.
Yeah, Skynet's a nice guy.
It's crazy. Yeah. That's a great t-shirt. And then I said, okay, so what? Everything's back to normal, which is great. So now if I'm going to do this with this computer, told it what it was, and with this operating system, told it what it was, what are the steps I need to go through? And it just told me exactly the same steps. Didn't give me the security.
Full circle, yeah.
Yeah, like it hadn't learned anything at all, and which is why I was saying like...
or it's deliberately fucking with you.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was quite a moment to just go, well, we're offshoring. That's not the right word, but we're outsourcing our intelligence right now.
And our sovereignty, I think it perhaps feels like our actual power.
Yeah.
So it's different example of the same thing that keeps bubbling up everywhere.
Yeah.
But the exponential acceleration of all of this is present too. So we've long wanted to use the tools of life so they don't use us. I want to use the tools of inspiration that are around me, but not get lost in the using of them.
Totally.
So like you wanted to, music and art is a really convenient way to talk about this, because it's like I want to crack myself open. I want to say move myself, work myself into an openness. Find a way to access deep parts of myself and express from there. And sometimes it's through stillness, and sometimes it might be through ecstasy or movement or dance or singing or whatever, to drop into a deeper level of yourself so you can experience the joy of authentic expression. And you can use tools to do that. So with these videos, like the reason I settled on those ones was because they moved me deeply, which to me says they're resonant with a part of me. But I don't think that the computer cares about that I'm resonant with it or not. It's just neutrality. It's like,
is that always though? Like I just wonder.
Sometimes does the computer care about me?
No. I mean, isn't that always the case? Like, does nature care whether you enjoy the sunset or not? It's like, yeah, you're the thing that gives it meaning. The consciousness is the thing that gives it meaning or even purpose in the first place.
Yeah, I think there's a way to be harmonious with all things too, though. And that what's an example? Like you can regard an animal lovingly and feel connection coming back. So I think they're just levels to talk about the same thing. And you could say there's no love in the animal. The animal gets fed. The animal has a mammalian nervous system, so it's interested in closeness to pack for safety. It's like there is no love. The machine you're inside of is rigged to procreate and to have safety across longevity. And safety and longevity mixed together.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, what an arid way to talk about.
Well, it's classical mechanics, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's true. It's like saying you only get sick because there's a reservoir of infection that you've interfaced with. It's like, that's true. From a karmic or an energetic level, it's like, oh, you got sick at the right time so you can have a certain experience of yourself. The thing is these things needn't argue. There might be some discernment about which space to operate from in a certain moment, but they can be complementary, symbiotic. In fact, it's like all things are happening on all levels all the time. Which one do you want to tune into? The lineage I used to belong to once upon a time, one of the teachers would offer like, it's all God. All of this is God. Which aspect of God do you want to attune to? Because you can focus your consciousness on dog shit if you want to. How far is that going to get you? So that's an example of sovereignty too, is which of the full spectrum of infinity, What am I drawn to focus on? And one of the invitations is like, you're an ancient, eternal being that's been accumulating preferences, likes and dislikes, repulsions and magnetisms across infinity. There's a lot in you that's already been worked out. There's stuff that feels like moving towards that and moving away from it again. Like I say every week, this is the majesty of desire, the import of it, the beauty of it. This is why we can't run away from it, to work with it. In a lot of ways, it's like, if you designed they're doing it right now, like designing ever more complex AI-inspired or founded or whatever, integrated simulation models so that you can live out the life of your dreams in a simulation. That's what this actually is. So you can live out the life of your dreams. Had someone saying on an Instagram reel this week, like, maybe they're right. Maybe it's all a bit redundant and this is just a simulation. Well done. Look at these trees. Are you kidding? The intricacy in that, this lights me up. Why do the clouds have to be so mental? This is a British guy. The joy I experience in the clouds, like, two things true at once. It's just a simulation. Simultaneously, it is the very best God's got. And that includes our ability to be repelled and magnetized and inspired from that sorting and sifting to create by establishing what really feels good to you and attuning to that vibration. It feels so good to contemplate the freedom of being able to travel 6 months of the year. Okay, that's a thing. What's the vibrational signature underneath it? Can you feel it? Does it feel inspired? Oh, yeah. To everyone? No. To me in this moment? Yes. Not to me, as it turns out. We're just playing with an example. Does it feel inspired? Yeah. What is that experience? Like, it feels like me being lit up. Oh, that's a real thing. Maybe the language sounds a bit wishy-washy, but that's a real thing. I'm going to attune to the place in me that already feels like that, and it will be drawn to me like a magnet. Now, the actual work of it tends to be, what now bubbles up is the misunderstandings or unconscious agreements that I have about why that's not possible. The stuff that's in the way of that already being here right now. And you do that enough and you're like, actually, there's no rush. This stuff's guaranteed. I'm going to get there. Because all that's happening is Luke is luking. Luke is closing the gap between not self and self forever, over and over and over. And that has a very creative material level as well. And it's deeply multiple levels. Vibrationally, I'm coming into more contact with myself. Materially, I'm coming into more contact with myself over and over and over. Some of them have to be fully manifest in order for them to be realized and complete and that satiation to be met. And some of them can get halfway done and go, no, I'm out. I didn't really need that. I thought I wanted to go and experience this thing. Like an example that might sound really, really crude, but like someone is in a relationship and it's become a bit stagnant. And they think that they need to experience more exotic sex to find that passion again. They go down that path and they realize they're just missing out on connection with themselves. That's not wrong. None of that's wrong. And it's not saying that sex isn't the answer. None of it's that judgmental. It's saying that there was beauty in holding it initially that way and being authentic with the process and allowing it to have its way with you and you to come to these insights that bubble up and then integrating them and then as that new being that's now online making innovative decisions. You might look back, this is like the Ram Dass thing, you're looking back and going, God, I was high. I thought I was doing sacred tantric work. It turns out they were just orgies. I say that with deep reverence for him. But there's a gratitude for the immaturity in a way. There's a gratitude for the misunderstanding because of the layers he was able to shed by playing out his own bullshit. And to the best of our ability, we do that without hurting other people, functioning with love and integrity. I often say this with new romantic relationships, discussing this with people. There's the idea that we step in and that we get the relationship that it mirrors our behavior. So if you turn up to a date with someone new, romantic's a convenient example for this, and you behave as the best version of you, the most charismatic, if you make the right choices, conversation topics and the right timing comedically, it's all doing stuff. And if you get it right, you'll woo the doe or whatever, and she'll want to share her life with you or something, or he'll want to share his life with you if you do it right. Whereas the actual human the human experience of this thing is much, much more vibrational, because you show up and you go, well, I could fake being a 30% better person or different person than I actually am for a little while, and it'll exist as tension in my system. At some point, we're going to crack open and actually have to be ourselves. So we're much better served by turning up and being authentic. And you do that and you realize, I can't do authentic. I can only be authentic, which is infuriatingly oversimplified. But you rock up with, in a functional way, the only thing you can functionally control is love, like loving intention, that I want this to work out great for both of us and for us to find a deeper connection with love through it somehow. So this is going to be good for me and it's going to be good for you. Chances are it's not going to be the one that lasts 50 years. Because there's very few of those, by virtue of them being 50 years and us only having, so many years on the planet so far. Loving intention and integrity, and the rest is up to the universe. That's a very different way to hold human relationship. You're showing up as, how in relationship can I get with myself? How present and authentic and truthful and honest can I be, gauged on the openness of the other person? Because you don't want to be radically open about your childhood and the lumps and bumps of all of that with somebody you met just then. That's radical overexposure. So gauging the authentic amount of openness you want to practice with, depending on where they're at and where you're at and what the cocktail together is, and functioning from being rather than doing, and then you'll see. And then they can become wonderful experiences. And when it's a mismatch, you'll feel it because you're actually connected to yourself. I'm connected to this deeper part of myself. This isn't resonant. And I'm actually really grateful. I feel clearer on who I am for this experience of not who I am. And there's nothing wrong with either of them. I'm grateful for this. Sometimes it's a little gnarlier than that, but much cleaner way to do it. We were talking about AI before, and I figured we'd reach a natural kind of threshold of addressing it. How we feel about it, not just how effectual we think it's going to be on the world as it is and was, but how welcome is it? How different is it to other phenomenon? Because again, two things true at once. On one level, it's just like every other vibrational phenomena of the universe. It's not in that way, it's not that interesting. On another level, it's an exponential acceleration off a cliff. So nothing has ever changed things as much as AI is about to, and also nothing's actually even going to change. Somehow both of those things are true within that reality, and both of them need honoring, because one of them will enable you to meet it, and the other one will be rather antagonized by it. Does that land naturally, that discernment?
Yeah.
It'll give, if we can accept that it's just like any other vibrational phenomenon to be surrendered to and met on a spiritual level and worked with, that's the inner yes, then we can actually get busy working with it. If we can meet it, we can live with AI and coexist. But we don't want to bypass either. So we coexist with the human realities about it. And from maybe a more personal perspective, that's a big thing for you. Bigger than most, because part of your ego identity is wrapped up in the music industry, a healthy expression of a human life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of. Me personally, I mean, I think that I agree that definitely will be a lot of people that will be being challenged by it. For me, I learnt a long time ago what I do is not who I am. So for me, it'll be less of a change. I mean, I think
there more tension in your system about it than there is in mine?
Oh, 100%.
Well, yeah, so that's an example of ego identification, and that's not bad. That's simply human.
I think it's more because of, though I don't think it's because of me as my time in the industry. I think it's more for humanity. Like I'm saddened by the idea that the handmade craft of music is coming to a junction, because it's not an end, coming to a junction where it may be less, but the quality may be higher. The irony of it all is less people doing it will mean that the people doing it have to be better. And I think there's probably there's probably a dearth of average music coming out at the moment. So AI is going to clean all that out. There's not going to be any average music coming out anymore because it won't sustain. People will just go to AI for it. It'll have to be inventive and creative.
People in their lounge rooms, right? I think I've been thinking about it in terms of jingles and music industry.
No,
music
it's the
utility.
My 2 cents on it, bro, is that I think that
there's
a fork in the road, and all commercial music, there will be a time probably in the next 5 years where all commercial music is AI. So you will go to a cafe and it'll be AI, and the music in the background of your TV shows and the films that you watch will be AI, and it will all be AI. I mean, there'll be some directors who will resist it, but eventually I don't think anyone will resist it. But then there'll be another, I hope someone builds a platform, to be honest, but there will be a space where people who love music and love human-made music and humans that love to make music go. And they'll go there for that specific purpose of, choosing the music that they want, that they're looking for something that AI just can't give them.
Yeah. This is the bit that interests me most. And I honour a lifetime spent in the music industry, and it's like a new country invading. So you've been living in a country for 80 years, and then
that's a great analogy.
And I guess that's what that's what change is. It's horrible and apparent as well. And so I offer that in terms of us giving ourselves patience and compassion to make these changes. And it's on that very human level. It does seem that way. The bit that's most compelling to me about it is being curious about what the universe is up to. So honouring the discomfort, and you're alluding to that too. So I'm trying to honour both ends of it, that there's this human layer that's like, this, we're going to lose something beautiful here. And I want to ceremonialize that and honour that. And I think that's a beautiful intonation in your system. But then also having the openness to go, and also I can feel that there's love hasn't died. Something's moving through this that I'm curious about, and I want to stay open to the discomfort, open to the excitement of creativity, open to the human reality, open to the divine possibility, both online at the same time. The key thing that keeps coming up for me around AI in all its forms is to create a wonderful reflection point for what authenticity is and is not.
Yeah.
And as best as I can tell, I'm open to authenticity bubbling up in other ways. I mean, if something's really authentic and it has the capacity to expand and clarify deep authenticity within you, then it has brought so much light and empowerment to authenticity that it is authenticity itself. So we're never too far from honouring the God in all these things. And so naturally there's a divine momentum in AI. Of course, it's a phenomenon of our universe here and now. It's very real in the human world, and it's happening. And so it's welcomed and it's beautiful, but its primary purpose, as far as I can see, like, it's got many. Its primary purpose is to help clarify what authenticity is. You could argue that as a species, we're vibrationally ready to go off, like AI is going off a cliff. We may well be going off a cliff of invitation towards a deeper authenticity than we've ever been able to hold, because it will be necessitated. If we're drowning in a bunch of pseudo-humanity, like the music industry thing you're quite cleanly articulating, we will naturally be polarized towards deeper authenticity. Maybe not everybody, maybe not all of us all the time, whatever. But this is how duality works. Nothing out of place. But in order to realize the beauty of that, I mean the functional realization version of that, to realize that opportunity is to really be with the discomfort that it arises. So when you talk about the music industry, there's such purity in the grief around it.
I'm in the midst of rebuilding and coming home to myself, starting again, but in a place of integrity and being able to hear my intuition. Nice. Leading it for the first time ever. Starting to feel
it for the first time ever?
Leading from it.
Leading from it, okay.
Leading from it
Wow.
for the first time ever. Starting to feel my freedom, feeling the open space to work from, like real life can really begin now and now. It's not a question, but maybe perhaps a commentary on where that space is.
Well, yeah, either of us. Because it does feel lock and key, already in touch with oneself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what it does speak to is being more in touch with oneself than one has been able to be, which captures the whole, in a way, the dominant flavour of the journey. Because look at the growth we're doing. I've grown so much, random person, I've grown so much that I can even notice how much I still have to go and that I've already accomplished. It's so strange the words are falling in on themselves. I've grown so much I'm able to sit right in this and honour the past and honour the future that I'm stepping into. I think what she's describing is perhaps stepping out of being some form of automaton that's reacting from established patterns of being. Let's say she's probably through trauma smacked into enough brick walls to go, there has to be a different way. I am not represented by this pattern in this environment anymore. I don't want to be in conflict with these people any more than I absolutely have to be. And so I'm going to sit with the discomfort that my environment generates. Sit with the discomfort that my now moment generates. Sit with the discomfort that the human relationships of the day bring up for me. And go, okay, when I crack this open, I can see there's a part of myself I'm not in relationship to. It's really in pain. I'm going to move into that pain. Go, oh wow, sadness, grief, loneliness, unheardness, isolation. I go, okay, it's a little more soothed now, or a lot more soothed now. Now, how do I stay here? And then you go back to the old relationship pattern, or you go back to the midpoint between you and that person, family member, spouse, child, co-worker, and you find that they're still where you left them, more or less, still where you left them. And so the momentum circulating through their system exists as maybe an invitation, maybe a furious invitation to draw you back into the old pattern. And probably the first 10,000 times you go, okay, makes sense, okay. Or you go, way easier to do this than to deconstruct and recreate a new pattern. It would cost me way too much. It would cost me way too much with this person. I can't break their heart. I can't break my heart. I can't break their hearts, the collective around you. Man, there might be exceptions to this story, but this story feels very familiar through those I've dialogued with, and certainly myself, in so many ways, so many different human relationships. But eventually, enough of the new self, and new's probably not the right word because it sounds like a reinvention or a replacement of the old one. But perhaps what's more true is we're removing dysfunctional patterns to reveal the one that was there all the time. A revelatory self-discovery. And you're like, I can't sustain this pattern with this person and be in relationship with myself at the same time. One of them's got to go. And so you invite the other, because inevitably there's a lot of love there. Perhaps we've gone off the edge where it's non-resuscitatable, but as often as not, there's still a willingness. It hasn't quite reached contemptuousness, there's still a willingness. Come with me. We said we started this out for love, and here's what love looks like to me. I can move more deeply into myself. I believe our love can hold us. There's enough space within the four walls of our love for my authentic self to exist and your authentic self to exist. Come with me. Come with me. Sometimes they say, awesome. I thought we were already doing that. Let's go. And you do it. Or you quickly realize you can't. And you revisit a million times and then you start to interface with a new reality that there may be the lack of a capacity here. Whatever happens next, well, at least from a spiritual point of view, it's less important than that newly online relationship with self. But in order for that to be the case, we have to coexist with all the grief of the human reality dissolving. I'm painting a picture here where a new relationship is starting, no matter what. Yes, a relationship with self is online now in an unprecedented way, and yet we did only reveal what was underneath it. A new relationship is online here in an unprecedented way. So that means the old relationship either rebirths into a new one, or another relationship replaces it. Either way, a new vibrational epicenter is obligated to take root. A new start point will not be denied. That's fierce, man. That's fierce. Like we were talking about music industry stuff before, even if we know there's an inevitability, we know acceptance is the only way, we're dragging, kicking and screaming this singular or collective human reality along for the ride. This is what the work looks like. It looks like dragging a human being behind us, kicking and screaming. Our spiritual selves, our spirit is having a wonderful time all the time. The God part of us is just like, wow, if I hold it this way, divine. If I hold it this way, divine. You talk to God on plant medicine or in deep states of meditation or deep states of sexual exaltation or ecstasy, whatever. The conversations can look like, no matter what the question is, the answer is love. The answer is yes, love, love, yes, yes, love. It's having such a raucous time all the time. Everything's blessed, everything's divine, everything's opening, everything's a realized opportunity. And that's true on that level. But always, two things true at once. And so this human being is like, wow, to do that, I've got to let go of all of this. And that's the reality. Grief has its place. Sadness has its place. All the colours of the human emotional rainbow are necessitated. But a beautiful cherry on top is that the experience of those paths having been walked, that land being traversed, stretches our tissue to make us bigger and more accommodating for a larger version of ourselves and more possibility in our life. So it's not, I say dragged, kicking and screaming, because that is part of the apparent reality of journeying through it. But it also serves incredible purpose. It's not just surplus waste, peripheral carnage and debris. It's incredibly effectual and beautiful. And so in the absence of these patterns, what's left behind is a beautiful dialogue with self. So it's like, okay, I used to move away from myself in order to maintain relationships that gave me apparent safety, the illusion of buoyancy in my life. I got to keep these people around. And now that I'm more being myself, some of those relationships fall away or reform. And that's called being a human being. But I'm also much more sensitive to when I fall out of relationship with myself. And then I fall back in. And then I fall out. And then I fall back in. So that adherence and lostness, that connection and rudderlessness, that alignment and misalignment becomes like a dialogue. I move towards this and this feels like me. I move away and this feels like me. And it works in lots of different ways. If I let myself be annoyed at that person, I feel like I'm being more authentic. It doesn't mean I'm yelling at them. It means I'm going, oh, I'm annoyed that I feel unseen here. And a part of me just relaxes and blooms in that moment. And then I can more clearly see that actually they're just doing their very best. Now, if I jump to they're just doing their very best, I miss that opportunity to see me. I'm seeing them. I might miss out on my own human, miss out on my own morsel of chaos that I can contain and allow to bloom, and collectively we're more as a consequence. The chaos and I are more. The God bit and the human bit are bigger because we saw that bit we came to see. And so it becomes, Paul and I, mostly me, but we reference conversations with God. It's also a wonderful, as a text, it's also a wonderful metaphor. And, the author of that book gesticulates this functionality, and that's that like everybody is having this dialogue all the time. God doesn't speak a language. God speaks experientially. God speaks to you through the experience of worldly phenomena all day, every day. every one of your senses, including intuitive capacities. And so this dialogue becomes the primary dialogue of your life. You're listening to self. What brings you closer to you and what pushes you further away? Closer to what? Closer to the Paulness, closer to the Lukeness, closer to the you-ness of this question asker. Closer. We're all the same. We're all completely different. Or rather, we're all unique, radiant in our uniqueness. The universe doesn't make mistakes or inefficiencies. It wouldn't repeat itself. It doesn't. And so our individuality is divine too, and everything about us. We can afford to dance in that specialness because it's true for everybody else too. And that specialness we experience as alignment or a lack thereof. And beyond that deepest of intimacies is everything we're looking for. All the vibrational alignment, all the divine resources that exist beyond form, radiantly true and feelable and contactable, and all the material ones that follow that too. I do believe you can get all the fulfillment that you want. But it's also true that it'll cause you to want more, because this is God traversing its own infinity. So how beautiful. I mean, it's apparent in the story that, wow, I've never really lived before, so life is just beginning. And yet there's also a mountain being climbed. We talked some weeks ago about that kind of slaying of dragons, the crossing of irreversible thresholds, and then also the artist's way of just showing up to yet another project, to yet another transmutation of consciousness, to yet another artful expression of self onto the canvas of life. And it goes on and on and on. And that both of that is evident. She's just, this person, they're just getting started. Just getting warmed up.